Hey, welcome back to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond. This is a show where we help you get better at doing hard things. In this short strategy edition, we're going to talk power posing. What is power posing? Power posing is when an individual adopts an open or expansive posture on purpose. People also often call this postural feedback. These postures are where we open ourselves out into a space-consuming pose. Our limbs are spread, our torso and neck are stretched out. So think of Beyonce or think of Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, standing tall, hands on her hips. The opposite of adopting an open posture is a closed posture, where we make ourselves smaller, hunching our torso, bringing our limbs close to our bodies, and particularly having our hands around our neck for protection. Adopting the power pose or expansive posture for 2 minutes increases our sense of internal power. Having this increased feeling of power allows us to much more confidently approach uncomfortable situations because we feel better able to handle them. So when you become aware of your body posture, it's pretty simple to alter. Notice yourself hunching, straighten up and sit or stand tall. Feel like you're curled up in a ball, open your arms and legs out and spread yourself out wide. So where do I apply it? The strategy is best applied just before you head into an uncomfortable situation. The social psychology researchers looking into postural feedback suggest that the best time to use it when you're about to go into a situation where you're going to be socially evaluated. So things like job interviews, like getting up in public speaking, or going on a first date with someone, or one of the early dates in a new relationship. And these social psychologists might be biased in terms of where it's best to apply it, but the fact that uncomfortable situations usually have some social discomfort associated with them, it's probably a safe bet to try this one across the board before you head into any uncomfortable situation. And the researchers also suggest that power posing has a cumulative effect over time. So the more that you do it, the more it builds on itself and the more confident that you become. So if you're doing this repeatedly day after day after day, even when it's not just before an uncomfortable situation, they suggest that this is going to build your confidence, build your power over time. And this idea might have some merit, or it might be the feedback that you get from going through the uncomfortable situation, getting to the other side, being okay, and being able to do that over and over again. Regardless, it seems to work. So the strategy in action. I first came across this concept from Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. And Amy is a social psychologist, and her talk on power posing is the second most viewed of all time on TED.com. So that's a buttload of people that have watched this. Amy was in a car accident when she was 19. She suffered a head injury and her IQ was quite considerably affected. She was in college at the time of the accident and then ended up being withdrawn from college. And a whole lot of people told her that college wasn't going to work out because of where she was at the time. She really felt that her identity had been stripped away from her, as she'd always been someone that had thought of herself and identified as a smart person. But Amy managed to get through college by working hard and in her own words, getting lucky sometimes. She graduated 4 years later than most of her peers, and at this point she was offered a postgraduate position at Princeton. But she still really felt that she didn't belong at this point. She had a massive case of imposter syndrome. And the night before her first talk at Princeton, she called up the person who hired her and ended up telling her that she was quitting because she couldn't do it, because she didn't belong. But thankfully the woman who hired her told her that she needed to fake it until she made it. that Amy needed to talk as many times as she was able to for whoever asked her, even if she was terrified, even if she was shaking and having out-of-body experiences. She needed to keep doing it until the point where one day she would believe that she did belong. And power posing was one of the strategies that Amy used to help her get through 5 years of terror, public speaking, before she felt that she could do it and that she did belong. So why does it work? We're influenced by our non-verbal communications, our thoughts, our feelings, and our physiology. And when you have negative thoughts and feelings towards yourself, you tend to make yourself smaller, try and protect yourself. You adopt a closed posture. You hunch up through your torso, your arms come in, your hands come up to protect your head and neck. Alternately, when you're celebrating a win or something awesome, your body opens up, you spread yourself out wide. So in this instance, think of Usain Bolt at the end of a 100-meter race. It's a pretty open posture that he adopts. And the hypothesis around power posing or postural feedback is that when you pretend to be powerful, you're more likely to feel powerful. And so an initial study looking at power posing by Dana Carney, Amy Cuddy, who did the TED Talk, and Andy Yap, found that people who adopted power poses for 2 minutes were less risk adverse immediately afterwards. They felt more powerful, and they also had an increase in the hormone testosterone, which is associated with feelings of confidence, and a decrease in the hormone cortisol, which is related to feelings of stress. And being more confident and less stressed fundamentally changes the way that we approach situations. We're much more in control and able to navigate them in a more proactive fashion, as opposed to being in a state where we're just reactive under stress. There's a little bit of controversy around these findings because following on from that studies, there have been quite a number of studies that have been unable to replicate the effects of the initial study, especially the effects in regards to the hormonal changes in participants. But more recent analysis of the literature has shown that postural feedback creates subjective feelings of power in individuals who adopt these postures. And this influences cognition, behavior, and psychological outcomes, including stereotypes, resistance to influence, creativity and authenticity, physical and mental performance, self-regulation, and goal pursuit. So, with that being said, if you can adopt power poses, then you're going to be more confident going into an uncomfortable situation. And you're more likely to persist for longer, which increases your chances of getting a positive outcome, all because you're less stressed, more confident, and you feel more powerful. So I think it's worthwhile testing this out for yourself and finding out, is this something that's going to work for you? I did a power pose for 2 minutes before recording this, and actually I feel more confident with it. I don't know how it's come across to you guys, but test out some power poses. I'd love to hear your feedback. And this is an excerpt, a draft excerpt from my book that I'm writing at the moment, Get Out of Your Comfort Zone, an expert guide to doing hard shit. If you guys want to head over to getoutofmycomfortzone.com, you can sign up to track the progress of the book. I'll keep you up to date. I'll flick out a few strategies from time to time. And when the book's ready to come out, I'll also hook you up with some good deals on it as well for following along. So that's getoutofmycomfortzone.com that you can register your interest. Thank you so much for getting uncomfortable with me today. And let me know how you get on power posing.